Garmil Magat. And thank you, Minister, for remaining for the whole length of the debate. And it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the amount of work that's gone into a finance bill, which runs to 93 sections and approximately 215 pages. So let me place that on the record, and also to recognise some of the good steps that have been taken in relation to the temporary business energy support scheme, which needs to be closely monitored, and then in relation to the steps taken in relation to VAT and the extension of the 9% VAT for gas and electricity, and the very welcome move in relation to VAT on newspapers reduced to zero, and many other good things in relation to once-off payments. However, notwithstanding that there has been a boast of 11 billion, I'm in the Dáil since 2016, and I am desperately waiting and campaigning and working for a transformative budget. A budget that recognises that we can never go back. COVID told us that, and climate change and biodiversity. I've read some of the speeches made in relation to the biodiversity. They're on your side. They're absolutely wonderful, acknowledging the seriousness of it, yet not captured at all in the budget. And that's my difficulty with once-off payments. Yes, absolutely, you had to give once-off payments in relation to rising energy costs and the spiral that we're caught in. But at no stage since I came in 16 have I seen a transformative change. I've seen your words, I think, in relation to the planet is burning. Perhaps it was your colleague, but yourself, which was very welcome in your speech last year. It wasn't repeated this year, and the planet is burning even more this year. So we need transformative change. There's no going on in the same way. And so when we pass a budget like this with piecemeal measures, some of which are very welcome, it's completely ignoring the elephant in the room, which is we have to change whether we like it or not. And so I can pick out anything, but I'm going to pick out the Help to Buy scheme, because as you know, I've raised it many times. I've a file here, so many. I've read all of the reports. And you know, you have, in Section 5, extended it again for another 2 years. You haven't taken on any of the recommendations in the Mazars report. And if it captures for me anything, it captures the language that you use in relation to change and then absolutely no change. And that's what's happened here. So we've had report after report. It was introduced and mentioned in 2016. It came into the budget by the Finance Act for 17, in operation in 17. In each budget it has been extended. The estimated cost originally, Minister, and you know this much better than I do, was 40 million. It looks like it's going to cost over $1 billion by next year. Now, tell me if I'm wrong with my figures, but I've looked at all of the reports and I've read them. And I want to thank the Parliamentary Budget Office, which did a brilliant report. You know, I'd love to know what the contracting out of reports is costing us and what the Parliamentary Budget Office gets to do. They're very good reports. And key messages. By the end of 2021, the estimated total cost of approved Help to Buy claims was 559.7 million. At that stage, it was 43% above the cost estimates. A third of recipients did not need the Help to Buy scheme to meet the 10% deposit and could instead use the scheme to create larger deposits. This could be described as dead weight lost, which means activity which would have taken place anyway without this tax incentive. Now, much more in that, but I'll go to the most recent report. And I'd love if you had the cost of it for me. The executive summary, and I've read more than the executive summary. You know what's interesting as well? Part of the logic for introducing this scheme was that the central bank were so strict in relation to the criteria laid down for what you could borrow. And it was to step into that vacuum because of the prudence of the central bank. Now we're facing a situation, I think in January, where the central bank have altered their rules, and we can now borrow up to 4 times a salary to buy a house that none of us can afford really. And it doesn't make sense that we're still persistent with the scheme now for another 2 years at a time where the central banker said, borrow away. And that point is, well, that's what they have said, up to, I beg your pardon? Well, they said you can borrow up to 4 times your
every potential borrower is still subject to the affordability test.
Ah, I see. Well, now, maybe you could address the point I'm making that the central bank at the time were extremely prudent, and this was one of the main justifications for this scheme. The central bank are no longer advising prudence, and they're saying borrow up to 4 times, but we're extending this. And when we're extending it, we're saying it had 2 key objectives: to increase supply and to improve affordability. It did neither, mind you. The rationale for introducing the scheme that it would boost demand, some latent demand that wasn't spelled out. And then they go on to give the findings. The scheme promotes demands for a new housing in a market where the problems that exist are unequivocally supply constraints. There were also concerns expressed when it was introduced that it can be difficult to remove schemes such as this one when they've become embedded. This has clearly been the case, because it has been extended a number of times. This was not foreseen in appraisals of the scheme previously undertaken. Now, we don't have financial expertise here. We have to use whatever wit we have to read these reports. And here we have the complete failure to analyse this scheme at the time and make proper predictions. Expenditure on the scheme has far surpassed projected values and is rapidly rising. And as I understand it, it would be over £1 billion at the extension time and possibly more. That this trend appears likely to continue and may accelerate. And this is extremely relevant. The scheme is poorly targeted with respect to incomes, location, house prices and other socioeconomic factors. It has socially regressive impacts. There is considerable dead weight associated, and it is poorly aligned with spatial policy. The Greens might listen to that one. Poorly aligned with spatial policy and so on. I have 2.5 minutes left, and I'm grateful for the time I've had to allow me to do that, because I've wanted to do it for some time. And I would advise you all to read it. The issues that were to be addressed, including the shortage of housing output and affordability, have intensified since it was introduced, with increasing deficits and higher prices and so on. The research indicates that many of the risks that were perceived have not come to pass. And it goes on. Conclusion. There are weaknesses in the Help to Buy scheme. That's some understatement now after this report. There are weaknesses in the help. After reading out all of that, that's the strongest that Mazars can come up with. There are weaknesses in the Help to Buy scheme, and it cannot be concluded that it is sufficiently efficient to represent good value for money. And the final part that I'm going to read out of this: a rational approach would not design the scheme as it currently exists. Now, that's the Help to Buy scheme that you held on to for a few months, that you haven't told us the cost of it, and you published it on the day of the budget when we had little chance to read it. And I tried to read it very quickly that day, and I've read it since. And all of the reports to date have said that it was poorly targeted. The jury is out on whether it actually led to an increase in prices, but that's because the market was rising so much anyway. So that's one scheme that this bill is now copper fastening for another 2 years without any logic behind it, except it's now too big to fail, which has resonance with me for the banks. Too big to fail. The scheme is now embedded, not a rational one, not a good one, but it's now embedded in government policies. And there is the key, Minister, government policy. And government policy is feed the market at all times, rather than public housing on public land. So we have this Help to Buy scheme, we have the HAP that's been mentioned, we have the RAS, we have the long-term leasing, and all of the other schemes. And all the time in Galway, we have a task force that is set now for 3 years and should be abandoned. I was thrilled when it came to look at the housing crisis in Galway. And we have no overall vision, no city architect. We have lands in the docks that are being dealt with by a company to maximise this price for the sale of the lands there for housing that should be public housing on public land. And the exact same all over the city, and a mantra that this is good. So, Minister, I'll finish. I won't go over my time. I have great difficulty with the cognitive dissonance that happens all of the time between something that's said and something that's not done. Gurma.